here are the biggest gaming leaks and news you've probably missed this week. The physical games era is not completely dead yet, but let's be honest here, it's clearly entering its final stage. Sony's latest financial report showed that 85% of full PlayStation game sales during FY 2025 Q4 were digital downloads. That means only 15% of full game sales came from physical copies. That is an enormous shift, and at this point, it's no longer a small trend quietly happening in the background. This is now the dominant way people buy games on PlayStation. When you average out the entire financial year, roughly 78% of PS4 and PS5 full game sales were digital. So even outside the holiday quarter, nearly 8 out of every 10 games sold on PlayStation platforms are now downloaded instead of purchased physically. And honestly, this explains almost every major decision Sony has made over the last few years. The push toward digital-only consoles, disc drives becoming optional accessories, aggressive PlayStation Store promotions, subscription growth, and tighter integration into Sony's ecosystem all make much more sense when you realize the audience has already largely shifted toward digital purchases anyway. Because once players stop buying discs, the platform holder gains significantly more control over the entire experience. Pricing becomes easier to control, distribution becomes easier to control, licensing becomes easier to control, refund structures become easier to control, and consumers become more dependent on a single storefront. Now, to be fair, digital purchases are incredibly convenient. You don't need shelf space, you don't need to swap discs, you don't have to wait for shipping, and you can preload massive games before launch day. For a lot of players, especially younger audiences growing up entirely in digital ecosystems, physical media already feels outdated. That convenience factor is real, and honestly, it already won the battle for most consumers. But there is also a trade-off that people should not ignore. With physical games, you actually own something tangible. You can collect it, lend it to friends, trade it, resell it years later, or simply keep it on your shelf long after storefronts and servers disappear. Digital purchases are different. With digital games, you are trusting a platform ecosystem, licensing agreements, account systems, and long-term server support. And after years of DRM controversies, delistings, online check-in debates, and storefront shutdowns across the industry, it's understandable why some players are uncomfortable watching physical media slowly disappear. Because if physical games eventually vanish entirely, a lot changes. Used game markets become weaker. Retail competition fades away. Collector culture shrinks. Game preservation becomes harder, and consumers lose another layer of ownership and flexibility. That's the part that makes many longtime gamers nervous. Now, personally, I do not think Sony is going to completely abandon physical media anytime soon. There are still huge audiences that buy collector's editions. There are still regions where internet infrastructure makes digital-only gaming difficult, and there are still major releases where physical copies remain culturally important. Games like GTA 6 are probably going to sell massive numbers physically simply because people want to own a boxed copy of a launch that huge. There is still emotional value attached to physical games for many players, but the direction of the industry is becoming impossible to ignore. Physical games are no longer the standard option. They are slowly becoming the enthusiast option, the collector option, the premium option. If you enjoyed this video, hey, maybe drop a like. It really helps a lot and tells me you want more. Subscribe for day one gaming leaks and news, and check out these videos you probably missed. Trust me, they're worth it.